What I notice with any kind of chronic illness is that we often, like in our functional medicine world, we always talk about finding a root cause. And a lot of people kind of focus on one root cause, like, oh, my root cause is this. But your body doesn't live in a vacuum. Your heart doesn't live by itself. Your thyroid doesn't live by itself. Your hair doesn't live by itself. Everything affects everything else. And so when we're talking about autoimmune disease or chronic disease, one of the first things to address, of course, is the gut, because 80% of our immune system lives in our gut. And so what's the first thing that influences what our gut is doing, what we're putting in our mouths, our nutrition?
That's right.
And so one of the root causes of having an autoimmune condition is having food intolerances. And so if you're eating a very sad diet or a standard American diet, you can have things like, you know, the wheat is so processed. There's so much glyphosate being sprayed on wheat nowadays. There's a lot of toxins in that wheat. It's very inflammatory. A lot of the conventional dairy that, you know, hormones and antibiotics and all these things are being put into the dairy. By itself, it can be a very nutritious food, but under the circumstances, it can cause a lot of inflammation. And so what we want to try to do when we're looking at diet is to avoid inflammation-causing foods and putting back nutrient density into the diet to help the gut to heal.
Very good. You know what I'm noticing, Tina, is a lot of people that come to Neomed and they complain about their diets, they actually already tell us, I cut out all the dairy, I cut out all the grains and all the wheat, but I'm still not well. What do you have to tell those people?
That's a great question, because 6 to 7 out of 10 people, when they change their diet, see almost miraculous results. And then there's the 3 to 4 people out of the 10 that have hardly any results. And these are the people I find are highly toxic. They may have other infections going on in their body, whether it's viral, whether it's bacterial, whether it's parasitic, and all these issues need to be addressed. And this is why I believe Neomed is so wonderful, because this is exactly what we do here. We address all these root causes.
Absolutely.
And then once we see those root causes being addressed, the diet starts working.
I see. So would you say that the diet is number one thing to integrate, but there are other things to also work on?
Of course. Diet, I think for most people, there's even functional medicine practitioners that won't work with someone unless they change their diet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's the foundation.
Very good. So imagine I come to Neomed, I address the diet, so I follow some sort of a protocol. Then what's next?
Well, what's next is us as wellness coaches and the doctors kind of come together to assess from birth what has happened to the person during their journey to get to this state of bad health.
Right.
And so we can help assess if there's toxicity in the body by some tests that we offer here. We can help to assess if there's a parasitic overgrowth or if there's a candida overgrowth, and address those with colonics and enemas and a lot of other great therapies that we do here. And at the same time, we can address if there's a lot of pain in the body. We can also address it with a lot of the great state-of-the-art machinery we have here that helps a lot. Like we had a client today who was not able to bend over and touch his toes, and today he showed us that he could touch his toes. So
after Papini therapies.
Yes, after the Papini therapies.
Very good. And I think also it's very important to address emotional toxicity, because toxicity is not only coming from the environmental sources, but also emotional toxicity from maybe sad relationships or some past trauma. I know you have a very specific thing that you do with toxic people around you. Can you tell me a little more about that?
Well, sure. I mean, there's a study that shows that pessimism is directly linked to increased inflammation. So just the thought process of thinking negative can cause inflammation in your body, let alone being in a toxic relationship or dealing with toxic people. That creates a state of inflammation in the body that the only thing you can do is to start to really question what's going on in your life and prioritize who you want in your life and who you don't want in your life. Relationships are very important.
Tina, what do we do with those toxic people?
Well,
seriously.
if you cannot change your situation, you can change your reaction. And this is a very helpful tool. Like for me, I love laughing. I grew up in a family that if we're not laughing, there's something wrong. And so I try to change a dramatic situation into a funny one in my mind. So when the toxic person I'm dealing with is in front of me,
Yes.
I envision a funny situation with that toxic person, and it makes me laugh instead of get angry or cry or get emotional.
Very good tip. So next time we're gonna imagine this person in a funny situation, maybe get a different perspective, and hopefully not get this toxicity into our body, into our heart. Yeah?
We see it all the time. We can rewire our brain. We can rewire those neurons to react to a specific situation in a different way. So maybe you're used to reacting in a way where you take things personally and you internalize everything.
Right.
And that's toxic.
Absolutely.
So by every time dealing with a similar situation that you face every single day, reacting in a different way, if you do it every day for a month, you have formed new neurons, and all of a sudden you're reacting to something in a more positive light instead of a negative one.
Very good. So we discussed a little bit about the diet, emotional toxicity, environmental toxicity. What else? What else do we need to be looking for?
Okay,
among the root causes.
Among the root causes. Okay,
Yes.
so we said the gut, we said emotional, we said
environmental toxicity, we said
all the infections.
Infections, parasites, what else? Is there anything else that we need to be really addressing?
We can also, hormonal health can also be a root cause. So if your hormones aren't doing well, that could cause a lot of toxicity as well and inflammation in the body. And hormonal health typically has to do with stress.
Oh.
So that's a huge root cause that is usually brushed off. So like a lot of the time people will go to the doctor and the doctor will say, don't worry, it's just stress. Well, even though that's an accurate diagnosis, patients aren't given the tools to address that stress and how to deal with that stress in your mind. So we all have this this flight or fright mechanism in which we face a certain situation. For example, if you're about to get attacked by a bear in the forest, okay, your body stops digestion, it stops thinking about reproducing, it stops thinking about things that are not important, so it can pump adrenaline into your legs and so you can run for your life.
Right.
Exactly, okay? But we react to emotional stress and everyday stress the same way as if we were about to be attacked by the bear. So you can imagine if your body day in and day out is in this sympathetic mode of trying to avoid that bear, your digestion is going to suffer, your ability to reproduce is going to suffer, and a million other things are going to start happening which create a feeding ground for chronic disease.
Very good. I believe another very interesting reason that a lot of people omit is teeth. So dental health is paramount, and a lot of people forget that under their crowns they might have some root canal teeth or hidden infections or problems with their gums and other, reasons that could be feeding the illness. So we just recently saw on our thermal imaging camera how a problem with one tooth was creating a problem, inflammation actually in the whole body down to the breast. And I think this is really shocking for many people to discover.
Yeah, and I think it also confirms that the body works together.
Absolutely.
Everything
yes.
affects everything. And so when you're being a detective for your own health, don't underestimate one little thing that may be going on in your body. For example, if you have tinnitus in your ear, that could be, I don't know, candida overgrowth or something blocking your ear, and that could be coming from another part of your body that's forming that kind of tinnitus in your ear. So everything affects everything.
And another important root cause that people must address is interference fields in the body. So those can be caused by injuries, traumas, physical hits, tattoos, scars, surgeries. Basically, wherever the body suffered and had been manipulated, this creates an interference field. So the actual physical tissue is hurt, and then there is this energy scar, as we call them. So we also need to address this with very specific therapies or essential oils or maybe even neural therapies that we do here at NeoMed.
That's fantastic that we can do that here and people can actually have those issues addressed and feel better from that.
Yes, I believe there are many more root causes that need to be addressed and can be addressed, but we will probably talk about those in our next videos. Thank you for watching.
Thanks, guys.